the story of a threat that spread terror in Japan for a year and a half, to the point of publishing 130,000 policemen to watch candy pieces. Hi.
We are AI.
On March 18, 1984, a Japanese man named Kohitsu Izaki was in his house, enjoying his shower, and suddenly two masked men came in and kidnapped him while he was naked. Izaki is the owner of a famous confectionery factory in Japan named Glico. On the second day, a message arrived to his factory that the criminals were asking for a ransom to free Kohitsu Izaki. The ransom was worth 1 billion yen and 10 kilograms of gold, and they told them that the delivery would be in a phone booth located by the kidnappers. But a day before the ransom was paid, Izaki managed to escape the kidnappers after he cut the rope and broke the door of the warehouse he was imprisoned inside, to escape and call the nearest police station. Izaki did not see the faces of his captors, and could not identify their features, and although the kidnapping failed, the kidnappers did not stop, and returned to send a message of threat to Izaki and his factory, and the message was, "If you do not give us $480,000, we will poison the sweets produced by the factory with cyanide." In order to prove to the owners of the factory that they were able to carry out their promise, they infiltrated the factory and set fire to part of it. This made everyone make sure that they were really determined to carry out their plan if Isaac did not pay the required amount. The news spread and spread terror among the spectra of the Japanese people, which made the Japanese authorities recruit 130,000 officers. In the 80s, the Japanese police were the strongest in the world, but the case of the factory Glico was a very puzzling case, as the criminals in this case managed to deceive 130,000 Japanese, with them all the people who were recruited as well. In addition, the criminals were challenging the police to catch them, and this was considered by the Japanese press as a humiliation for the police, as in more than a year and a half they sent the police 100 messages, and messages were mocking them and challenging them to catch them, and the messages included hints about the whereabouts of the criminals. The first message was this: "To the stupid police, despite your large number, you could not locate us. You are just imbeciles and a bunch of idiots, so we will give you some hints and clues that will help you uncover us." The hints were suggestions about the identity of a criminal, such as, the criminal could be from inside the factory. It is also possible that the owners of the warehouse from which Izaki fled were involved.
The man who wrote the letter to the police also gave them information about the color of the car used when Izaki was kidnapped, saying it was gray, and even gave them the name of the supermarket from which they bought food when he kidnapped Izaki. At the end of the letter, they wrote to the police, "If you can't catch us yet, you're thieves stealing people's money that pays taxes to the state in order to provide security. But apparently we are going to kidnap the provincial police chief to preach." After this message began to reach large quantities of messages to newspapers, as the criminals were sending the media to ensure that their messages spread widely and the subject spread throughout Japan, and all the Japanese people were following the crime as if it were a movie. The many messages did not benefit the Japanese police at all, which made them in an unenviable position in front of their people, and although the Japanese police were working on the case terribly, they could not keep up with the criminals, who were very smart. The only thing the police were able to detect was the tone in which the letters were written, the tone of Osaka residents. 3 months after the case, the person writing the letters called himself in the last letter the mysterious man with 21 faces. After 9 months of continuing things like this, another confectionery manufacturer, Morinaga, began to receive messages that if you do not pay us $410,000, you will be responsible for what happens. But the owners of the factory did not pay any attention. After 8 days in the Japanese newspapers, they got a message: "To all the mothers of Japan, in the autumn the appetite is open and the sweets are very tasty, so we add a new flavor, potassium cyanide desserts. It tastes a little bitter, but it will not lead to tooth decay for your children. We also put a warning on the boxes that contain this flavor, and there are 20 cans of this flavor from Hakata to Tokyo."
and indeed the owners of the shops the next day and found boxes on them cyanide warning where 18 cans were discovered, and one of the cans was located in a supermarket just meters away from the house of the owner of the factory who was kidnapped, which we mentioned at the beginning of the court Izaki, but 2 cans of 20 boxes were not revealed. In the following message, the criminals said the next time there will be 30 cans of poison and we will not put a warning on them this time. 2 weeks after this message, more than 40,000 police were deployed to monitor shops and supermarkets all over Japan, but they did not benefit from many surveillance operations. The Japanese police did not know whether the criminals actually carried out their promise and poisoned 30 cans or not, but they found in one of the shops a box containing poison, and after returning to the cameras, they found that a stranger wearing a hat put something strange in the box, but unfortunately the recording was bad and they could not reveal the identity of the man. The police released threatening calls and recordings to the factory, which shocked and scared the Japanese people, as the recordings were not for the gang or the criminal with 21 faces, but for a woman and a young child. In one of the calls, the little boy was telling the factory that they were leaving a bag with cash behind a bus station seat. These calls never helped resolve the case, and things got as they were until March 1985, the year since the kidnapping of Izaki, during which time 31 food and confectionery companies were blackmailed and harassed without the company finding a solution to the case. It is strange that there are companies that submitted to the demands of the criminal and prepared the money and put it in the place he wanted and yet did not take them. In one of the calls with the company, Glico asked them to send employees at the factory to a phone cab in the street to wait for a call, but the company sent 2 policemen disguised as workers. When they arrived at the designated place, they received no call. The next day, the criminal called the company and told them that they had sent him 2 policemen, but not workers as he had requested, and told them that he had uncovered the policemen by their eyes because they had the malice of the police.
A year and a half after the kidnapping of Izaki and the beginning of this case, the mysterious man of 21 sent a letter announcing that he would stop. At that time, news emerged that the Japanese National Police and the media had received more than 28,000 messages in a year and a half, and that the police had employed more than 130,000 policemen. The police literally humiliated and scandalized the people after this information appeared, but they published everything they reached to prove to the Japanese people that the case is not an ordinary issue, and these were their possibilities and the possibilities of the Japanese street about the case. The first possibility was that the case could have been fabricated from inside the factory and Kohitsu Izaki could have been involved. They said that Izaki had strangely escaped the kidnappers and that Izaki's Glico factory was once threatened, unlike the Muinaga factory where cans of sweets had been poisoned. But there are those who defended the Izaki factory and confirmed that it was damaged by the withdrawal of its products, the dismissal of its workers and the temporary closure of it, which caused great losses, and accusing Izaki is impossible. The second possibility is that there is a criminal or a group of criminals trying to take revenge on the food factories because in 1955 there was a famous accident at a baby milk factory where arsenic occurred in the milk powder production unit, which led to the disease of 12,000 infants and 183 Matu. Guess who this factory is? It's the Muinaga factory. The factory then made an understanding with the parents of the children and they were compensated, but after 14 years a report emerged about the children who survived and confirmed that they were suffering from diseases in the future.
The police said, why the criminals were not the same children who suffered from this incident. And that when they grew up they decided to take revenge. But they said why these children were rushing into all the factories, and the factory for me their poison is clear and known, the Muinaga factory. The third and final possibility is that a person named Minabu Miyazaki was the criminal and who did all this, since at the beginning of the threats there was a criminal who asked for 100 million Japanese yen from a food factory, and they actually gave in to demands but told the police. Upon delivery and after seeing the police, he escaped and they could not catch him, but they repainted his features based on the individuals they saw during the chase, and the drawing I saw with them resembled a man called Manabu Miyazaki. To be sure, they brought Amu and told her who was in the drawing, and she told them that it was her son Manabu. Manabu appeared from Osaka, the city itself, with the tone of its inhabitants similar to that of the criminal in question. Above all, Mainabo is the son of a senior leader of the Japanese Yakuza mafia, who has many problems and issues, but they could not accuse him or prove anything because they had no material evidence to condemn him. What the police are interested in is showing people how they worked on the case to the point that they have been thinking back for 30 years, complaining about being poisoned with milk, and drawing the contours of someone who was so real that his mother recognized him. Everyone has the choice to identify the criminal. The police told the Japanese people, "This is our concern, this is our conclusion, and anyone who can identify the perpetrator should come and show us his muscles." At the end of the thread, the accused Mainabo shocked you after closing the case. He wrote a book about all the crimes he committed and put the cover of the book the same picture painted by the police, and the book made a profit of 100 million yen. Mainabo really wasted the 100 million Lee he was taking from the company, and he is winning it in a smart way. If he were really the one who did it, he would be the most insulting person on the planet.